Do you know what time it is?
F-U-L-L-O-U-T. We got control, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We will never stop. What? We got the drop, yeah.
What time is it? Fool! We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8. Good evening and welcome to our newest Full Out Chat Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Steve Solberg, and we have a great one here today for you guys. Some of the recent big news in the college cheerleading world is the recent hires of new head coaches at Ole Miss and at the University of Kentucky. Jaylan Davis and Ryan Martin O'Connor are taking over those programs, and both of them cheered at the University of Alabama, graduated from the University of Alabama, and I just thought it would be super cool to get their former coaches from the University of Alabama to join us and to talk about how they started out as athletes. How were they coachable as athletes? How were they as athletes? I think there'll be some fun stories and some cool insight from there, but also obviously the pressures and the all eyes on you type of mentality of taking over an SEC program. You know, we're talking about two schools with great traditions, big time game day. And obviously, you know, the pressure of being competitive at nationals. And I think all that is stuff that a lot of people don't realize. But in addition to that, running the program, you know, all the behind the scenes stuff, paperwork, running tryouts, running practices, all that good stuff that a lot of people forget about when it comes to, you know, college cheerleading is all that background and all the other stuff that goes into it. So I just think it's going to be an awesome episode of obviously talking to Ryan and Jaylan in regards to them taking over these programs, but then also to hear from their former coaches and to talk about how they were as people and kind of how they were as athletes leading on to how they are today as coaches. So let's get started. I'm very excited to bring in our guest today. First, it is Jaylan Davis, the new head coach, cheerleading coach at Ole Miss. Jaylan, how are you, buddy?
Doing great, Steve. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. And let's bring in the new coach at the University of Kentucky, Ryan Martin O'Connor. Ryan, welcome back. How are you?
What's up? Thanks for having me again. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming. Very excited to talk to you too. And now let's bring in your coaches, your former coaches from the University of Alabama. First, David McDowell, UK alum, coached at the University of Alabama, won a national championship as head coach, also former head coach of Team USA Co-Ed when that program first started. So David McDowell, welcome. How are you, David?
Good. Thank you for having me.
We've already made fun of David in terms of technology, so we'll try to lay up, but we're just happy David's here. That's all I'm going to say. We're very excited. So
Love it.
Next up, former coach, University of Alabama, also won a national championship while a coach there, Brian Groschell. Brian, how are you?
Good to see y'all. Thank you for having me, Steve.
You're very welcome. Thanks again for being here. And the last piece of the puzzle, the current co-ed coach at the University of Alabama, has been on the show a few times. Always a great guest, Christa Sanford. Christa, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm not as deserving as the others, but I'm excited to be here.
Well, that's the thing about Christa. She's sometimes too humble, in my opinion, because, I mean, she's an unbelievable coach, and so sometimes too humble. And if you want to know about her humbleness, watch our USA Co-Ed episode, which some funny stories there about she was just like, oh, that was really good, the pyramid drop, but no big deal. It was really good. That was great. You know, some great stories there. But I just want to thank all of you for being here, and I just think it's going to be really cool. And for all of you watching, if you have any questions or comments or shout outs you want to give, in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go on the live chat, put it in there. We will see it. If you're watching on Facebook, put it in the comments below. I'll see it. We'll pull them up. We'll answer some questions throughout the night. And also, if you have any shout outs to any of these awesome people, feel free to do some great shout outs and we'll get to them. So first, let's talk about kind of the process first. We'll start with Jaylan and Ryan first in regards to kind of the process. Let's start with Jaylan. So Jaylan, obviously, the University of Mississippi, the Ole Miss job opens up. And so I guess, kind of one, like, how did you find out about it? Who did you reach out to? Kind of the process there. Obviously, we're under COVID. And so, there's obviously hiring freezes everywhere and things are just unknown. So kind of just talk about your process of applying and going through the process of getting the Ole Miss job.
Absolutely. So as soon as Ryan kind of made her announcement, I reached out to her. I said, hey, congratulations on the new job. I'm really excited for you. And I just was like, hey, so what do you know what are they planning on doing for Ole Miss? What are their plans? And she was like, well, they don't really know just yet, but they're figuring it out. But so I just stayed in contact with her, because she was the previous coach. And then I also reached out to the coach who was there at the time, the dance coach, Rachel, and, just said, hey, I'm really interested in the position. If you have any more information, just let me know. And just kind of stayed in contact with both of them. And then, they officially posted the job, and I probably was the first person to apply because as soon as they posted, I was checking, NCAA job market every day until it was posted. And then I applied. And then, we did the interview, and now we're here.
I mean, it's sometimes a whirlwind, which is crazy. Same thing for me. I remember telling people I found out about the Purdue job from a friend. I applied for it online. A week later, I had my interview. A week later, I was offered. And then 2 weeks later, I moved to Indiana. I mean, it was it was crazy. Yeah, it was like 4 weeks. And so I feel you on that.
It definitely wasn't that quick of a timeline. I think the job opened up probably late April, maybe. And then, there was probably about a month or so while the job was just posted online, and then, a week or two after that, I had my interview, and then probably 2 weeks after that, I had my second interview. And then finally, I was told, and then another 2 weeks later, it was the announcement. So it was probably about 2 month process in total from, when it actually started applying to, when it was actually announced on social media. But you know what? I can't complain because this is such an amazing opportunity.
Well, I mean, yeah, congratulations again, and we'll get into kind of your goals and things like that here in a bit. But let's go to Ryan now. Ryan, I mean, obviously, at University of Kentucky, prestigious program, obviously, but again, with COVID, hiring processes are different and just applying. Like everything was just so different. Kind of how was your experience in regards to having to apply and go through the process with COVID compared to like, I guess, quote unquote, a normal year?
Normal. I think this one was abnormal, even just without COVID. I think just the, how quickly they needed to bring in a coach versus, when I was leaving Ole Miss, like Jaylan saying, it took a little longer. I think I talked to, my athletic director in end of February. So we kind of had a plan going into it and then knew it might take a while just with COVID. Whereas the University of Kentucky was obviously just a different situation. And I had just bought a house. And actually the day the moving truck came to move us to our house in Bowling Green was the day that I got a phone call about the UK job. And I was like, wow, what timing that my moving truck's here to move me into this house I just bought. But my husband and I just talked about it and we prayed about it. And we were like, if we're going to pursue until God says no. So even though it doesn't make sense right now, maybe financially for us, this is just such a huge opportunity and one that I didn't feel like I could turn down. And I'm so thankful that my husband supported me in that and that, God allowed it to happen because, we were great in Bowling Green and really excited about the opportunity there. My husband joked and said he was going to die in that house. He never wanted to move again. And then here we are, like 2 weeks. It was kind of a 2-week process. An interview with a couple people, one more interview and some phone calls. And then it was quick. And I was in Lexington like the next day. So I was lucky that I was only, 2.5 hours away that I could be there to film some things and take some pictures and be ready for the announcement. But it all happened very, very quick.
Well, to both of you, congratulations again. I mean, to take over 2 prestigious, unbelievable, strong SEC programs. But obviously the common bond is you guys are Alabama alumni. And obviously what big game day is. You know what it means to have to travel the country to all these bowl games and NCAA tournaments and all the unbelievable PR events you have to do and the commercials. That you know what it takes to be an SEC athlete. You understand that. But obviously the people that know that the best are your coaches, the people that knew about that. And so I want to start with David McDowell. David, again, thank you so much for being here. David, you got to coach Ryan, when she first got to first got to Alabama. I know that, you were a huge influence and mentor to her when she got to Alabama. And she told a really funny story on her full out chat about how like she was ready to go to Alabama, but you're like, you do have to try out and make the team, like I'm not guaranteeing a spot, which is so funny, but I'm like, that sounds like David. Absolutely. And I remember that story. I thought it was hilarious, but, kind of talk about, well, first of all, your experience at Alabama and coaching at Alabama, but then obviously, coaching Ryan and kind of the traits she showed as an athlete that that would lead to her being a good coach.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think one of the things that stand out the most is really just her perseverance, and it is funny that I told her that, but it was the truth. I'm like, hey, listen, you're going to try out and you're going to do well enough to make the team, but you're going to have to work for it. And it wasn't easy for her, at all. And she persevered through a lot of struggles just mentally from being homesick and different things. But, she always kept coming back. And I'm like, hey, just pray about it. Keep praying about it. Keep working hard. And that's exactly what she did. I want to say this about Ryan, but about Jaylan as well. And the other coaches would probably say the same thing, is that, one of the greatest things that I ever had was through coaching is when you see kids graduate and they tell you, thank you for the role model that you were. Thank you for the person that you were. And really just, thank you for leading me. It wasn't about championships and different things. I mean, those things are all great. But I can tell you, sitting here in front of all of you now, I think that this right here tops it all, because to see them and what they have accomplished, but then more importantly, to be able to take on a program and on this side know without a doubt that they're both going to do great at it is probably one of the most fulfilling things that I have actually been able to be a part of. So I just want to say thank you to those guys, because, there's only so much us coaches really can do. The people have it in them. Sometimes we can encourage them and make them stay the course. But at the end of the day, it's really the kind of people that they are. And so like I said, I don't think for 1 second that Ryan and Jaylan won't do a good job. And no matter what they decide to do, but people ask me, like, what is one of your best memories as a coach? And I always say my favorite memory as a coach is when they come back as alumni, maybe a year or longer later, and they come back and they're like, I get it now. And I'm like, yes, you do. I hope you do. They're not supposed to get it when they're a kid. I mean, they're not supposed to get it as an athlete, but hopefully they get it when they graduate. Absolutely. And that was well said, Dave. Thank you. Let's go to Brian. Brian, so, you're the next in line. You took over the Alabama program. Obviously got to coach both. Ryan towards the end of her career, and then got to coach Jaylan at the beginning of his. And so, again, kind of your experience, working at Alabama, and then kind of, as a coach, what did you see in them that you kind of knew, like, yeah, these kids have it. They have something different about them that, could lead to greater things, like being a coach in the SEC. Sure.
Well, sometimes when you're a coach, you're good and you can go recruit people, and sometimes you're lucky. And I was lucky in both of these cases to get to work with both Jaylan and Ryan. Ryan, I was coming in, for those of you that don't know, I coached for a while. I cheered at Alabama, then coached, and then left because of another job that I have. And David took my place from that point, and then God works in mysterious ways. And when he was ready to move on, I actually had a chance to move back. And so there was a lot of uncertainty about who was going to coach. And I remember Facebook messaging Ryan and saying, hey, I know there's a lot of unknown, but, just stay the course. We're working on things, and things are going to work out. And I need you to be here if things are going to work out. And so that really kind of started our relationship from there, because she's like, man, you just made me so happy. I appreciate it. And things were really tight from there. And then Jaylan, we were so lucky that he came and visited Alabama. I remember his first trip at a clinic, and he did such a good job, worked so hard. I saw him afterwards, I think at Midtown Village. We were out to eat, Brandon and Jennifer and I, and we saw he and his mom walking around, and of course we spoke, and yes, sir, yes, ma'am, so respectful. I mean, you knew right then, you're like, I don't care what his skills are, that's somebody that we want to be in our program. And so both of them, you knew right away that they understood that they represented something bigger than themselves. They were ultimate team players, always pushed their teammates to be the best they could. Jaylan is the ultimate hype man. Ryan's an incredible leader. I mean, the skills that I was able to take from them, it was really a blessing to me to work with them.
And then we're just going to keep moving down to the next co-head coach at the University of Alabama, Christa. So Christa, you obviously got to take over towards the end of Jaylan's career, and then obviously worked with them on the USA co-ed team, and kind of the growth, I guess, of the Bama program continues, and obviously now this coaching tree is expanding just crazy. Kind of what was your first impressions of knowing, like, kind of when you heard about these two Bama alums taking over these SEC programs?
Well, I echo what David and Brian said. And also, I may not have directly coached Ryan, but I've known her since she was in probably like the third or fourth grade from being in the state of Kentucky. And I probably shouldn't have said third or fourth grade. That kind of tells my age. And I said we weren't talking about that. But anyway, so I just did that to myself. But So I have known her and her mother and her family for a really, really long time. And so I do feel like I know and love her as much as I would have loved her as coaching her, maybe even more, because I've watched her grow up for so long. And then coming into the job at Alabama behind, these names right here, very incredible, but also very intimidating. And Jaylan was one of those athletes that had his arms open and said, come on with it. And, there's always challenges coming into that, but he was always open-minded. He had an open heart. And, when I pushed a little bit more, like I felt like he didn't always want to understand it, but he always took it, went with it. And then he was just so great afterwards. And then he used it into leadership beyond into his teammates. And then you watched him graduate, which was, you knew that he had goals and he could see them. He had a great vision for himself. While, sometimes you want to say, oh, are you, like you could get a master's at Alabama, but, he had a great vision for himself. And so that's exciting as well. And same as Ryan, like she had a vision for herself, when she was graduating, and then to watch it actually play out when, you hear him talk about it and, in your heart, like it's just the timing, like when is it going to happen? And now to see it's awesome. It's awesome to be able to see them live this out, and they're going to be amazing at it.
Before we move on, we actually already had a funny comment that I wanted to. Louie Harris is watching, and she just wanted to know: did Brian and David coordinate their polos? She just wanted.
I thought the same thing.
Of course, yes.
Didn't tell me, Louie.
Yes, we already talked about it behind stage, but yes, still
they're different.
Their boxes around.
Yeah.
I just thought that was awesome.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, I agree. Well, before we move on, I want to go into kind of talking about the Alabama experience and kind of what at Alabama prepares these people to obviously take on big programs or to take on these bigger feats in terms of in the cheerleading world. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about my sponsor real quick. We have a sponsor, and we actually have a special sponsorship today. So as you guys know, Cheer Chalk has been a great sponsor of our show, but we are actually running a 24-hour special. So if you're watching and you're looking at saving a ton of money, honestly, like this is the time to do it right now. Right now for the next 24 hours, you can actually get 25% off in addition to the big sale they have going on right now. So if you go to cheerchalk.us and put in the promo code FULLOUT10, you'll actually get 25% off in addition to the sales that they already have going on right now, which includes all their bundles. And as you can see, you could save a lot of money. They have some big bundles, which are already on sale, that you can get an extra 25% off if you put in the discount code FULLOUT10. It ends tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So you have 24 hours to go to cheerchalk.us and to get an additional 25% off on that Cheer Chalk order. And so when it talks about Unbelievable Game Day, Alabama is going to be one of the schools you're going to talk about. Alabama is known for the Unbelievable Game Day. So Jaylan, when you think about as an Alabama cheerleader, what were some of the things that you can just remember off the top of your head as a cheerleader that have you've already used as a coach, but you're for sure going to have to implement over at Ole Miss?
I think for me, one thing I want to continue on is what I learned was just paying attention to the little details. I think that is something for me that, Christa and Brian both really instilled in us, that it wasn't just enough to just do the stunts or just do the pyramid, and you had to do it and do it the right way every single time. And also do it to the best of your ability. You wanted to make it look perfect with that 10 out of 10 technique every single time, because that's who you are. You know, you don't want people to know you as, oh, they just did those cool skills. They did those cool skills with technique, and they looked effortless while doing it. So that's one of the main things I want to continue on with me, because I think that's what kind of separated us at Alabama from the other programs, is that, you know, not what we did, but how we did it. And I want to continue that at Ole Miss as well, because I think that just creates you as a standard. I think that's one thing that can separate you guys from the rest of the other programs.
Ryan, I mean, kind of the same for you. I mean, you got to cheer some awesome, unbelievable games at Alabama. Also, you did cheer for you at University of Kentucky, so you've got to cheer some unbelievable SEC experiences. And so, and obviously, you've coached the SEC. You were the coach at Ole Miss, and now taking over at Kentucky. I mean, thinking about your time as an SEC cheerleader, what are some things that you started implementing, or have implemented, that you're going to have to really try to emphasize at the University of Kentucky?
Yeah, I think SEC, right? It just means more. That's like the saying, and I really believe that. Even after traveling and being at other conferences, I just think the way that just growing up in a town, with an SEC school, and then cheering both at UK and Alabama, like just seeing the way that SEC fans just love their teams. I think they love their teams just so differently than anyone else. And of course, sorry, Steve, I'm probably just biased, but that's just, what I know. And I do think that we travel so well for our teams, and we just support them 24/7. And so I think just seeing like growing up in Lexington, and just seeing like the way that my family and the way that, fans loved the University of Kentucky, I started to realize that it was way more than just, cheerleading. It's way more than just the athletic teams, and it reaches so many more people. And then you go to Alabama, and actually my first Alabama game was my freshman year at UK. And so I wasn't cheering, but I came down with some of the cheerleaders. And so that was like my first experience at Alabama. And I was like, oh my gosh, these people are crazy too. Like it really is just everywhere. And I think just seeing how much everyone loves their team just made me want to work even harder, because it seems like it just means so much to them, right? Like it means so much to the people who graduated there, but even just the people who grow up in those towns. And I think that's what I always wanted to make sure that I did my best for the people that it really meant something for, and something that I'll continue to do here at UK is I do understand it. I do understand Big Blue Nation. I understand Lexington. I think you have a lot of people like, oh, I hope you understand, the role that you're stepping into. And I'm like, I do. I didn't just, I lived it. I grew up here. And I'm happy to be back. My grandmother's got a UK basketball tattoo. Like I think I added like at least 5 more years to her life, and my family is like really grateful for that. But I do understand the shoes that I have to fill and the role that I have to do, and I'm excited about it. I don't think I'm nervous at all. I'm ready to get going, and I'm excited.
That's a great segue. I'm going to go to Brian here. Brian, you mentioned you cheered at Alabama, then coached at Alabama, and then somehow you got suckered back into Alabama for a few years. I mean, so clearly, you grew up an Alabama fan. I mean, I'm going to assume that you were.
Actually, no. I grew up in Wisconsin, where you went to school.
Yep.
And my parents both went there. And when I was in high school, I started cheering for a school called Christian Brothers High School, which you're aware of. Not too many people in today's cheer world probably know who they are. But
I'm sorry, the greatest co-ed program in the history of cheerleading, no doubt.
We watched videos of Brian in high school when the Alabama cheerleaders came to play UK. They all came to my house, and my mom pulled up, I think Christian Brothers, like 90. You'll have to remind. I don't know.
Yeah, it was 95 was my senior.
Yeah, 95. So I got to see Brian in action. It was
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah. So I'd started visiting schools that were close by that I knew competed in college. Alabama, a girl that I cheered with cheered there, and they were competing for the first time in probably a 5 or 6 year span. And I went down and visited practice, and I just fell in love with the campus. And anybody on the meeting today or the chat can tell you, once you get here, it just gets in your blood, and I just couldn't escape it. So the only thing that took me away was a career that I was invested in banking the first time, and then wanting to expand my family and have more children was the other thing that took me away from it. So those are the only 2 things that could keep me away from Alabama cheerleading. And poor Christa, she still has to deal with me because I still won't go away.
So Christa, great segue into you. For people that do not know, first of all, listen to Christa's full out chat. Awesome talk. So many great stories from her Moorhead days through. But you're at Shelton for how many years now? You were there for.
I was there for 12.
Yes. So Tuscaloosa's in your blood. I mean, the area is in your blood. I mean, it's home to you now for sure. I mean, just talk about that first time that you got to go into Bryant-Denny Stadium as the coach at the University of Alabama.
Well, that I do have a story for that, because I thought that, I had been there watching games as a fan. It was fun. I went through game day, but I was so incredibly nervous. All that entire year, I was so nervous. But one of the things that I wanted to see it through the kids' eyes. Like, I wanted to know, like, how did it make them feel down there? And Jaylan was a senior this particular year. And of course, I had all the coaching things that I wanted to be right. And like, got to have this, got to do this, got to do this. But then I just wanted to see the energy through their eyes. And it was absolutely a totally different experience. All I know is I just kept staring, and I would lose moments because I was just staring like, wow, this is really where I am. This is really what I get to do. And so like I can't tell you that anything went right that game, anything went wrong that game, except that I got to really see it through their eyes and see it from the field and from the position. And it was an incredible experience. And I still get nervous. I get a little bit more hype now. Like, I feel like now I'm having a little bit more fun, but but that game, like, I wanted the seniors to take me through it and let me see like what it meant to them, because I did not graduate from the University of Alabama. And I knew great people from there. It's a great program. Not grew up in Tuscaloosa, but I'd been in Tuscaloosa for so long. But it was a totally different experience, a totally different feel. And it still is every single day there from my time before. And no, I'm not sick of Brian. I hope he keeps coming around. And all of y'all can come around. Give all the tips.
They're the enemy now.
I was like, can I come around?
We're
tips. Yes,
we're definitely gonna get there.
Come on.
D1A co-ed at UCA is going to be very fun this year. And so we'll talk about that here in a bit. Let's go with David. So, I mean, when you took over the Alabama program, as we were kind of talking about before the show, for people that do not know, David McDowell cheered at the University of Kentucky. He's a UK grad. And then after a year at Florida, if I'm not mistaken, then went to Alabama. Is that correct, David?
Yes, that is.
So you're kind of the opposite of the situation that Ryan's in, where she was graduated from Alabama and then now taking over Kentucky after coaching at another SEC school. Kind of talk about, if you don't mind, kind of those first few years at Alabama, kind of the challenges maybe you had and some of the things you learned, maybe some tips and tricks you can give to Ryan and Jaylan, taking over a program that you're not an alum of, that in fact you actually went to a rival school, and maybe, talking about kind of the challenges that you faced and some of the things you learned from that.
Well, before he starts, obviously he took over a well-oiled machine that I left for him.
I mean, obviously, Brian, we're not going to deny that.
All right, now go ahead.
Okay, well, actually, I was going to say that, Brian, so you just stole my thunder. But no, I will say, I think for me, the challenge for me was really not coming into an environment. Brian had kind of paved the way for not only me. I mean, he had contacted me, so the support that I got from him, and then just his buy-in, I think helped my transition. I think there was plenty of people that did not want Brian to go, but at the time, at that point, I mean, even in the same hand, they understood why he was doing it. And so when he approached me about it, like they're all talking about now, especially like Ryan too. I mean, Alabama was a dream job of mine. When I left originally, and I got to say this in the most respectful way for everybody on here. It wasn't that I had a spot that I really felt that, taking what I learned from Kentucky, that I could go to a program and take it to another level. Now, again, Alabama being that program that was already established, it was a little bit easier. I had the buy-in from Brian and really everybody there when we got there. I think some of the challenges was that Brian and I.
Oh, did we lose David?
I was like, did I lose David?
Did we lose him? Oh man, he was doing so well with technology.
Oh no,
we lost him.
David.
We'll get David back. I'm sure he'll pop back on. It might kick him out. I know he's actually using his phone because his computer wasn't working. But well, that's fine. So I mean, he'll come back. We'll get David back here. We'll just remove him because it's kind of weird.
Wait, I want to take his picture.
While he's frozen like that.
I can show it to him.
So we'll get David back here. But so I mean, Brian. So I mean, we'll jump ahead here because okay. So David, took over the program with and from what he was saying, had great support from you. But then, David obviously, left, and then you came back. And so kind of talk about your transition of coming back into a coaching role after being out of it a little bit and taking over now a program of kids that you didn't coach.
Yeah, no, when I left, I mean, I knew that the program could do so much more. I was working full time and just not able to give a lot of time, to go recruit. And so when I made the decision that it was time for me to move the first time, I said, David McDowell is the person I'm calling, and that's who we got to get here. And if you don't know, he actually cheered at Alabama for a short time. So he's really like Ryan, the opposite. Started at Alabama, then went to Kentucky, and then came back to coach. So it was really the perfect time for him to come in. He was able to elevate the program to another level and, again, set the stage for me to come back in, which it was unique when I came back. And I got to give that team a ton of credit because it really was a full team that I took over after 2011. I think every person returned, maybe except for one or two people. And and they welcomed me with open arms, and I'll say Jaylan and Ryan, any good leader learns from people along the way. I've had the benefit of being coached and led by people in my career, and everybody does it differently. And I think three of us, when you look at Christa, myself, and David, do things vastly differently, probably the way we handle a team, the way we approach certain things, and no way's right or wrong. But I think they got to learn from that. But it probably was a big difference for Ryan, especially after working in my career for several years. Coming back, I looked at cheerleading a little bit different. I had much more of an intent to make sure that the skills they learned were going to carry them on after cheerleading and not just intending to get them to the mat and that be it. So it was a much different time around for me the second time. I may have been more mellow, may have been more soft. I think I was just more mature and looked at things differently. But I came into a perfect experience with the team that I inherited and with Ryan leading that team. So it was, and it's whenever you get a do-over, you say, okay, well, I did that before and I need to learn from that. And so you're always evaluating yourself and trying to do things better.
Again, you guys are just giving these great segues into this next question. So, when you're talking about taking over a program, but knowing you have the blessing and you have the support of the previous coach, oh my goodness, Jaylan and Ryan, that's perfect. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about that real quick. So Ryan, Jaylan said he reached out to you, kind of, talk about, what, how was that phone call? What did when he said like, hey, Ryan, I'm going to apply to this Ole Miss job, kind of how did that conversation go? And, and obviously, Jaylan so well from from obviously Alabama alum, but also, UCA staff and Team USA and all that good stuff. So just how did that conversation go?
Yeah, I was pumped. I mean, I think the hardest thing when you leave a job is leaving the kids, right? And just like hoping that someone's going to come in and love them as much as you do, because that's like what you think. You're like, I can't leave this job because no one's going to love them the way that I love them. No one's going to fight for them the way that I fight for them. And so when Jaylan reached out, I was so excited. Jaylan and I really don't know each other that well. I think we just know each other through, that he cheered at Alabama after I did, and that, even he did staff after I did. But even through my assistant coach at Ole Miss, Blair, they were good friends and they were teammates. And just hearing Blair talk about him and just seeing Jaylan work at staff. I think, just seeing him work with other teams and seeing the way he was around my team, I just knew he would be perfect. I reached out to other people about him as well and just made sure, I was like, hey, like Jaylan's good. I talked to Jen. I don't know. I'm pointing down here. I don't know if I talked to any of you guys specifically. I think I did talk to Brian at one point and David too, but Christa, I'm not sure if we talked about it, but I did talk to Jen and just wanted to make sure. But I was so excited because I know that he's got the resume and he's got the energy that I think it's going to take there, the positive energy to bring in. He's got knowledge of all girl and co-ed. And I just know that those kids are going to love him when they get a chance to meet him in person.
I mean, Jaylan, what do you think is going to be kind of your, taking over Ole Miss, following Ryan? What do you think is going to be your biggest hurdle, coming in?
I think my biggest hurdle is just continuing the tradition of excellence. I think, Ryan paved a great, tradition, and so did the other coaches before her. I want to be able to continue that same standard of excellence, that same standard of, how they did it, not only just competition, but how they did on game day, how they did, in the classroom, how they did in the community, just being pillars of the community and all those type of things. I want to make sure that doesn't drop at any point. I want to just take it to the next level, like David was saying earlier. My goal is to come in and just take it to the next level. It was already great, and I just want to make it even greater because, I think we're all growing together, and I just want to see the program grow into another, program that it can be.
Well, we lost David, but he's back. We got him back. And so, David, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes. So
okay.
as we were talking about, and Brian, when we lost you, we went to Brian, and Brian actually said how literally you're basically the literal opposite of Ryan, that you did cheer at Alabama actually for a bit before going to UK and then graduating UK and then going back to Alabama to coach. Again, that transition, kind of what did you learn from those first few years of taking over a program that, again, you cheered at a rival school, and kind of just some advices and things that you can remember from that experience?
Well, I'll say this. I don't know exactly what y'all heard, what you didn't hear. I thought I was kind of moving on, but I think the biggest thing that I would just share with Ryan and Jaylan, and something that I learned is just two really, I think, important things. One is, don't ever think that you can't learn from the people before you, even though we want to be great, we want to do our own thing, and we want to improve it, whatever that may be. It takes a real big, mature person to accept and to be open to learning from, not only good, but even coaches too. I feel like you can learn from everybody, whether it's, the former coach, another coach, or just really anybody in general. I think I was a little bit intimidated by that because Brian was so well respected. He was good. He taught me too. I mean, I cheered with him. And so I think there's a little bit of intimidation. And what I'd encourage both of y'all is to learn as much as you can. But I also think that you're in the position because of the type of people that you are. So I do think you find your way and be consistent, and just always look at who was before and what the program was before. Because I think we forget sometimes, or I hope that they won't. But man, there's a lot of people that built those programs before even us on this call here. And I think that unfortunately in our world with the social media and stuff, that we can forget sometimes that, there was a lot of people that put a lot of things in place before you got there. And that doesn't mean don't go out there and, make it your own. But I do think that you have to be, confident enough to listen to people and then still be your own person when you're into those or moving into those programs. And I think that was probably one of my struggles too, because the intimidation, when you go behind someone, like Ryan, I know is going to experience, just like Jaylan is going to experience as well. But I do think that you being able to, just stick with what you believe in, but more importantly, don't be afraid to be vulnerable to people. People want to help you, just like they helped me, just like they helped Brian and Christa and Steve. I'm sure people that helped you. I think those are sometimes we don't like to be vulnerable, but I think we have to. And I think that really makes you not only a better coach, but a better person too. Because I think people see that in you, and they just respect that more. So,
Christa, how important was it for you taking over Alabama from Brian in regards to, reaching out to alumni, reaching out to supporters, reaching out to others within the program before even probably taking step foot in the job?
Well, I agree with David. It is very intimidating, and it still is. I mean, it still is intimidating. I still, hope that, those people that came before are proud and are, proud of the program, and that they want to continue to be supportive of it, even if things are changing, because times are changing. Cheerleading becomes something different every year. not in a traditional standpoint for Alabama, but just in general, like just the way the program maybe ran or anything like that. And so for me, I knew like some of the current alumni, but I lean on Brian and Jennifer a lot, and Brandon, for still reaching out to that, because, I was not from the University of Alabama. And I love, seeing like some of the older, but well before I ever moved to Tuscaloosa, and learning some of them. That's kind of what is new and fresh for me, because I don't know their story. I don't know it because I didn't walk those shoes. So I do like to hear those kinds of things to know, kind of what that meant to them. And so that, I can hopefully continue to transfer any of that back into the team and keep that there. But it is, it's still intimidating. It's still a great place to be, but you never want to be the one that, kind of couldn't keep it up, or, changed the face and it wasn't good or anything like that. So, that's a challenge for me every day, that, that everybody here is still proud of the University of Alabama and the program.
Man, you guys are seriously just setting me up perfectly with all of these great comments that are just going to add to my next question. So I want to go to Ryan and Jaylan here. The pressure, I kind of mentioned that earlier, the pressure of taking over a big time program, a program with a lot of prestige, a big time conference, a big time game day, obviously competitive, but also COVID right now, the things that it has thrown a wrench. I couldn't even imagine taking over Purdue this year. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how I would do it. So, I'll go to Jaylan first and then Ryan. So Jaylan, kind of how has the transition been and kind of the challenges? And I guess, kind of what, is there anything that, you have 3 great mentors right now. Do you have anything that maybe, some questions you would have in regards to taking over an SEC program?
Yeah, the process has been a little bit crazy, obviously, because of COVID. But I will say I've just been very supported with obviously the 3 below me, and then as well as Ryan, who's always been helpful with anything that I need. But also, even at the school, the athletic administration has been very supportive, and for me as well. And then we've kind of restructured the Ole Miss Spirit program as well. So now we've combined our dance and our cheer program. And so now our dance is the Spirit director. And so she's been kind of guiding me, because she's been there the last 4 years with Ryan as well. So she kind of has done the ropes and, been able to, kind of guide me in things that, I'm just have no experience doing just yet, when it comes to, making certain decisions or even just thinking about things. I got a chance to go down to Oxford 2 weeks ago just to get things set up in there. And, there were things I wasn't even thinking about doing that she was like, oh yeah, have you thought about this yet? And I was like, nope, not even thought about it. So I've been very grateful and very thankful to have people, like Rachel, obviously the 3 below me, and then just all my other coaching friends who have been reaching out to say, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. Cause it just reminds me that I will be able to do it because I have the family that's going to support me in this. But yeah, it's been really great. I probably will contact Christa and Brian and David and Ryan probably for the next 5 years, just asking random questions. So be prepared for that.
Jaylan and I were talking before, and he's only 23 years old, and he's taking over an SEC program at the age of 23, which blows my mind.
Me too, Steve. It's okay.
I took over Purdue at 27, and I thought that was super young. I couldn't even imagine being 23. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. Ask questions, my friend. I will tell you that also, definitely. Ryan, so, with COVID, obviously not only are you taking over a program, I know you just got done with video tryouts, which I'm quite sure were interesting to say the least. And so, kind of talk about, the challenges you've already had to face, with COVID and just, again, I couldn't even imagine taking a program and not being able to actually meet my team right away. Like I couldn't even imagine that. So kind of talk about the challenges you've already had to overcome with that.
Yeah, I think just on top of the job, right, just like personal life, like moving states and moving a period. I know Jaylan's experiencing that too. Like during this time is so strange as well. Even just like asking people for help, like, right, like you want people to come over and like help you pack, but like you need help and you don't have them to touch your things. But, like you need, so like even just like little things like that have been tough. I'm so grateful that I'm from Lexington and I do have my parents here and that I can stay with them until we figure everything out. But then, the team, it's been, since it all happened so fast, we had video tryouts up, I think the 3 or 4 days after the announcement happened, just because we knew that it had to happen quick. And it had to happen quick because of stuff on campus that, normally happens in April or May, housing, scholarships, things that they've been holding rooms and trying to figure that stuff out. And so we had to get a team, very quickly. And so we figured that, people knew that there were going to be video tryouts. They had been videotaping and working, through the summer, or that they had stuff from the past year. So we made it a quick, week turnaround. It wasn't like a long thing. It was like, we got to get this stuff done so that we can get started and, even get just names to housing and things like that. I was really lucky that I did get a chance to meet, probably almost all the returners. While I was in Lexington, I got really lucky that I just was going to the gym one day, and we're supposed to be in small groups, and they had a small group there that was allowed in the gym. And I was like, oh, hey, I did not realize I was going to walk in and meet all of you. But it's nice to meet you. I feel like I should have been prepared and had a speech ready, right, to meet them for the first time. But I did get to meet them. They were really great. Jomo's been really great about answering my questions. Obviously, reach out to David, reach out to Brian, but, reach out to David for just his connections with the University of Kentucky. And I reached out to Salim as well, who coached before Jomo did at UK and who was my coach in high school. And, someone I still want to make proud, someone who's not in the cheerleading world at all. I mean, he's so far removed. It's so crazy that he's not, but I still, just want to make him so proud too. But it has been strange. But my biggest thing to my team when we have our Zoom meetings is that we're not saying the phrase I can't wait to get started. We're started, right? We are started. Started's just different this year than it is, than it has been in the past, but we are started. So what are you doing today to make sure that when we are in person started, that you're ready to go and that someone else isn't going to be beating you out or that another program's not going to be beating you out. But we got to stop saying the phrase, I can't wait to get started. We're started. It's just a new normal. And so I'm challenging us all to just think that way too.
I like that, Ryan. That's really good. No, I really like that, actually. Yeah. So we're actually almost at an hour. So we've got about 10 minutes left, which time flies when you're having fun. Again, this has just been an unbelievable episode in regards to just the growth and now this coaching tree, this Alabama coaching tree, which is obviously now expanding so quickly. I'm going to go to each one of you one more time here before we go. So I'm going to start with David. David, when you took over the Alabama program and you're also coaching the Team USA co-ed team, which you did for a few years. I mean, you were really, into it, and then obviously having, you stepped away and then, seeing these athletes that you coach now, doing the things they're doing. Just talk about, I guess, what were some things that that you preached at Alabama that, definitely you're like, man, I'm so glad that was something that we were so picky about because it definitely helped these people once they got into the real world.
Again, I'm not going to take the credit for them because I think that these two individuals especially are just in their own right. They have it. They really do. And but I will say this, though, one of the challenges I felt like, or not challenges, let me say, one of the things I really tried to instill is that no matter what our situation was or what was going on, we were going to make the best of it. And I kind of see that what Ryan's already explaining a little bit now because, we can all sit around, and this is with everyday life too. We can all sit around and, think about all the things that are going wrong and all the things that we feel like are not the right, or not good for us. But I think at that point in time, I just remember several times looking at them, we'd have somebody get hurt or we'd have somebody, not show up for something or whatever it may be. And I would just say, hey, we're going to get through it. We'll be just fine. And it could have been, and Ryan, I know would be laughing right now, but there was an incident, which I won't go into names and practices, but, we had two of our more elite guys in everything that just had horrible attitudes. And it was like, Ryan can, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was fairly close to nationals. And I was fed up with it. And I'm like, you're out. Get off the floor. And I put somebody else in there. I remember Ryan Colston, the guy that I put in there. I was like, okay, let's go.
Come on, Colston, hop in this basket.
Screw this up for me right now. I just pulled those guys knowing that the peer, he's like, and he didn't. But I say that jokingly now, but I do think that as coaches and really as people in general, if we can learn to get through and make the best of the bad times, the good times, and all the things when everything's going right, which is few and far between, but when it is, those are going to take care of themselves. So no matter what situation they're in, no matter what they're facing, they just got to hold true to the person they are. But more importantly, don't allow a situation to determine your outcome. You need to, take COVID and everything else. Yeah. Is it a struggle? Is it hard? I couldn't imagine, but I do know that the attitudes that they have right now, like, hey, we're going to make it through this no matter what. Either you're going to be with me or you're going to be without me, or, without us, then we're going to be okay. And I think I love seeing that with Ryan and what you just explained there, because I think now more than ever is a time where you have to really take this thing by the horns and say, hey, look, we're going to make something of this and it's going to be good.
Brian, really the same question to you. I mean, like, you've been at Alabama many years. I mean, a lot of your fingerprints are still in that program. What are a couple of things that as a coach that you're like, man, I am so happy that those are things that I instilled, or those are things that I preached, because as looking back on the athletes you coached, it's stuff that they still do today, or that they're using as coaches.
Sure. Well, I think I touched on it before. You realize you're representing something bigger than yourself. And that's important, whether you're in class and wearing a cheer t-shirt and people can recognize you, whether it's on social media, whether it's when you're on vacation, you're representing your family, because eventually these people are going to be representing their companies, their families, their children, all the way around. And so understanding that, hey, this is bigger than me. I've got to know that I'm on 24/7, 365, and I've got to be ready for that spotlight, because whether you like it or not, it is the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. And it is a huge responsibility, and it's an awesome responsibility that you get to, represent a school like Alabama, or a school like Kentucky, or a school like Ole Miss. And if you can learn how to take that representation and use it to the best of your ability, and take those characteristics that you learn and then put them in the real world, I think you'll be a big success. And I will say, I think what David touched on too is so key. Something I learned later in my coaching career, asking for help. I don't know how many times I would beg Christa to come to practice. And my last year coaching, I made David, basically hired him on as a coach. And so he got a chance to work with Jaylan. But that kind of help, early in my career, I thought, this may be a sign of weakness if I'm asking for help. And that's not the case. It's only going to make everybody better, because your responsibility is to impact every student athlete on your team and use all the resources around you to do that.
So now we get to Christa, Jaylan, and Ryan, which I'm excited because now y'all are competing against each other. Oh, yes. This D1A is going to be a lot of fun with, it's going to be. So let's go to Christa first. Christa, how do you feel about, Jaylan, a former athlete of yours, but like I say, you've known Ryan for years, how do you feel that you're going to be competing against these two?
Well, I have a map of zones for them of where they can recruit and where. So I already have that available to them. No, in all seriousness, I mean, like, it's friendly. I think that we all get it, and I wish them luck. I wish myself luck, or Alabama luck, because ultimately, we can only be with, who we're surrounded with. So it really doesn't, matter how they go. They're going to do great where they are. I hope that I am going to do great where I am. And so I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be exciting. And, it's competition. So, may the best man, And you walk away, and that it is what it is, and you try again the next year.
Jaylan, preparing your first team to compete. I mean, let's all just assume COVID is gone, hopefully, and we're gonna have great nationals, and we're all preparing a team for nationals. Like, how excited are you for preparing your first team to compete in D1A at UCA Nationals as a head coach?
Well, Steve, I can already tell you I've already started writing down ideas, because that's the type of person I am. As soon as I got the job, even before I was applying, I probably was already thinking of stuff. And now that it's actually official, I have just some crazy ideas that that I have just thought about in my head one day, and was like, I'm going to write it down because you never know when it may come up, So I am just super excited, again, for this opportunity and just to, show what Ole Miss is made of. I think it's such a talented program, and to be able to, put them in that spotlight and kind of, give them that platform to perform and do great things. I'm super excited to be a part of the process and to get it started, and really looking forward to seeing, all of my friends at competition, but also just putting on a great show for Ole Miss.
When you think about like preparing your team, because you're at Texas State, correct?
Yes.
So as an assistant, you were obviously got to prepare a team, and you guys did really great on game day this year, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, had a great routine. I remember that. What did you learn as an assistant coach that you're like, okay, maybe you're a little bit more prepared now as a head coach?
Oh, I cannot thank Jocelyn enough. I've told her probably 10,000 times, since being, since I was given this position, that like, thank you so much for all that she's done to help prepare me. But I think what's really been helpful is just kind of, jotting down the process of, when to start or kind of, what things to do. Some things I'll take back from Bama is like, we were doing some of our elites on the sideline. So, granted, it wasn't the full thing. We weren't doing full out things, but, we were starting to get reps of, what skills we wanted to be in the elite at game day to, to continue to show spirit, but also just to get more reps in front of people. So a lot of those things I'm now more prepared to do because, I've been through that process, one as an athlete, but now two as a coach, because we did the same thing at Texas State. We were repping out certain skills we wanted to be in our nationals routine on the sideline just to get some more reps in. And so I'm really excited to kind of go along with that process. And I'm very thankful that I've had these 2 years to be under Jocelyn, and also my 4 years at Alabama to kind of help prepare me for the situation now.
So before we finish up here, wrapping things up here, we have a couple of great comments and a really nice question from a person watching. So I'm going to go to Ryan here. Ryan, let's not beat around the bush here. All right. Obviously at the University of Kentucky, they have a tradition of winning. I mean, that's what they do. I know. And not just basketball, because we know their basketball is great too. Obviously, you're walking into a winning tradition at Kentucky. The pressure of taking over that program, especially from a competitive standpoint, is I'm sure something you considered when you even applied for the position. Kind of talk about, your mindset going into that first year of, preparing the University of Kentucky to go to nationals.
If I'm honest, I feel like I've been prepared for this job. I think my whole life. I think that's why it's such a perfect fit and such a storybook, fairy tale job for me to walk into. I think if you got to know my parents, like I was bred by two coaches who like I had to win at everything. It didn't matter if it was school, if it was swimming, if it was tennis, like you're going to be competitive and you want to win. And sometimes that was really hard, growing up. And then, I got to be at, Dunbar, a Dunbar cheerleader where I won 5, high school titles there. And that doesn't, always happen. And it's because, I think my mom has that mindset. Salim had that mindset, and Salim, had that mindset at UK, and I think David, has a lot of those qualities too. I think Brian has a lot of those qualities, and so does Christa, but I just think that was the only way I knew. So I just experienced that at Dunbar, and I expect to win. I expect to do things a certain way. I don't hope to win. I expect it. When I went to Alabama, my goal was we were going to go and we were going to win. I wasn't just going to Alabama, to go to school. I wasn't just going to Alabama for the game day. I was going because I knew David McDowell knew how to win, and I wanted to win. So I think we both, kind of went into that program with that. I've got the same mindset here. I think just a couple years, obviously into coaching, is that I don't just want to win competition. I want to win everything. I want to be the nicest people on campus. I want every strength coach. I want every academic advisor. I want everyone to want to work with my team over every other team on campus. I want all of my athletes to think about winning in the classroom. I want them to win in the weight room. I want them to win on game day. I want them to take the competitive mindset that we have focused on the competition in January. And I want to apply that to every area. And I think that's where, that's where I'm going to be able to leave my footprints a little bit here. At UK is just making sure that we take that and we do it for everything that we do. And I think, that's the kind of person that I am. It's sometimes hard to, I think play sports with me still, my poor husband, or hard to even be friends, sometimes, because I have very high expectations for myself. And I tend to expect, I have very high expectations for everyone I come in contact with. So it's a curse and a blessing, but I'm not nervous at all. Like I said, we're started. I'm ready to go, and I can't wait to see you guys at competition this year.
So we're at an hour, so we're going to wrap things up. We've got a couple more questions and a couple more comments, and we'll wrap things up. It was funny because we were chatting about Tony Nash, and of course Tony is watching and had to make a comment. But he did a nice shout out from Tony Nash. Great coaches, David, Christa, and Brian. I can't wait to see you develop, Jaylan and Ryan. We still need to have this conversation on the best conference. Rock the house, Big Ten. I can't agree more, Tony. I can't. I can't agree more. But, that's just, again, I'm not being maybe a little biased, but, I agree with that.
You're a little outnumbered tonight, though.
Yeah. Tony, I'm ready for our basketball teams to play again. Let's set that up.
Well, man, great segue, because we actually had somebody say, Ryan and Tony, who's in Kentucky to play. Ryan, can you call up Coach Cal? Just call up Coach Cal.
I was just talking with him before this, so I'll just I'll shoot him another text and be like, "Hey, man, we got to set that up again." No problem.
Done.
No problem.
It's done. And then Alex Sevens just says, "I love you all." So awesome, showing some love. And then actually a really good question from Lee Trudell. All amazing coaches. What's one life experience that has influenced your strong coaching skills? That's a great question. We'll quick answer if you can think of something off the top of your head. I'll start with the young buck. We'll start with Jaylan. Jaylan, kind of an experience that you had that is already, that has influenced you as a coach.
I think for me, it's just attention to detail, and then just committing to everything you do. Like Ryan was saying, I want my athletes as well to understand that it's not just good enough to be, the best in the classroom, but you want to be on the field or at competition. You want to be the best all around, in your relationships, in your schoolwork, and, how you treat people. And that's one thing, I've learned, being at Alabama and all the programs I grew up in, was that, it's not just about cheerleading. It's so much more than that, And so that's one thing I definitely want to continue on at Ole Miss, as well as teaching my athletes that, it's not only about cheerleading at the end of the day. I want these kids to kind of grow up, graduate, get great jobs, become great people, and then, continue on after that and just keep that same mindset of being the best you can, while continuing.
Ryan, so this is where we were just chatting about this, Christa and I, how, again, we're going to make fun of Tony because we can make fun of Tony. Tony always hates going first or last on questions because either you're not prepared to answer or all the good answers are taken. So, David, you're going to go last. I'm sorry, bud. You're going to go last. So all the good answers are going to be taken, but we're going to go to you last. But let's go to Ryan next. Ryan, one life experience or as an athlete or as a coach that that is something that will be with you till the day you die as a coach.
Yeah, I think I've just been really lucky that I've had, coaches that have all done this same thing. So besides the being super competitive, it's relationships. And I think that's what shaped me. Like watching my mom do more than just be a coach, to her athletes. Obviously she was to me, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't want that, but to everyone else, just seeing how she just went above and beyond to check on people outside of practice made me realize that it's so much more, right, than just what we're doing on the sidelines or what we're doing in competition. And even the way she still keeps in touch with them. I think, then I go to UK and Josh Adams was great for me. He was my coach that he still, texts me and reaches out to me, and we still have a great relationship. And then I go to David at Alabama, who I still am, always asking for advice and texting and, wanting him to be, proud of me and everything I do. And so he just did that, that same thing. And then Brian, who, I'll never forget, I was like dying in the St. Jude, marathon. And Brian was texting me, waiting on me. I'm super pregnant, running, and just knowing that he was there waiting for me. I cried. I'm going to cry talking about it, just because he's so loving and just always wanted to show that he cared about me more than an athlete. And Chris has always been, I'm not going to say mom because I don't want to throw that age out there, Krista, because we talked about it. But I think my mom felt comfortable with me going to Tuscaloosa, even though she hated me for a while, because she knew that Krista was there, and she knew that I was going to have somebody that if I needed anything, Krista can be there. So I would just say relationships with your athletes. I think that's something that has shaped me into the coach that I am. I always try to be more than a coach for them, obviously without ever crossing that line, but still just letting them know that I care about you as people. I'm doing this because I want to prepare you as people. Cheerleading is something that we get to do along the way and helps us learn the lessons in a fun way, but it's really more about relationships.
Brian, it's been a while since you've coached, but obviously you've had an extremely successful career in banking, which obviously all that stuff translate. Anything that you'd like to add in regards to, life experiences or anything like to add before we end the show here?
Sure. And one thing, just before I do that, I forgot to say, and Jaylan brought it up. Look, if anybody's listening and you're a young cheerleader or trying out for a college, nobody did it better in the classroom than Jaylan and Ryan. They weren't just incredible cheerleaders from a talent standpoint. They did in the classroom, made incredible grades. They were the first ones to volunteer when we had appearances or things we needed. So they were across the board. It's so much more than just the competitive piece. And I forgot to say that earlier and wanted to make sure I got that out. One quick thing, my faith is important to me, and I grew up in Catholic schools, and there's a quote from St. Francis that says, preach the gospel always, and if necessary, use words. So that's something that stuck with me all the time, and I really always wanted to use that when I was on the team as a cheerleader, and then when I coached. Lead by example. You don't have to say a lot if you do things right, and as a coach, I always tried not to ask the cheerleaders to do anything that I wasn't prepared to do myself, except for maybe a lot of tumbling, or basket tosses in the air. But if you can stick to that, I think that was one thing that kind of led me along through my coaching career.
Christa, an experience that you made, Christa's full out chat is so interesting. I know that a huge influence on her was Myron Doan at Moorhead. I can't ask for one, but if I'm going to, like, one experience, whether that be from Moorhead or from Shelton or anywhere that kind of, still sticks to you today as a coach.
Well, it's funny because the second I saw this, Myron was, obviously the first person, if it was related to a person, and it still really is, but it was just the challenges that I faced, I think in experiences, and the people that supported me through those challenges, and how they helped not let it push me down to the bottom, but how it helped me learn. And I know that I have, I guess I can be a firm coach, but I think a lot of that comes from, like those challenges and being pushed to that, and being shown that it's okay to keep going, that's not your bottom, like you're still rising through every single challenge. And so that's what I would definitely is, think that Myron influenced me so much through every challenge I faced, and it could be from a simple challenge to really, really hard outside of cheerleading life challenges that I had, of how I had a support and a relationship with people to help carry me through those.
Jaylan, I'm guessing that giggle means that Christa can be pretty firm at times, I'm guessing, or?
Oh, of course not. She was always soft, always soft. We did what we wanted all the time. No, Christa was great. Christa was amazing. She taught me a lot. I call her. It's so funny you said earlier. I went back after my first year on my little scooter. When I tore my Achilles, and I was like, Christa. Actually, even before that, I called her one day. I was like, Christa, I understand. After coaching at Texas State for probably about 2 or 3 months, I said, I understand exactly what you were going through, and I understand exactly why you said things you said, and how you felt, and why you were reacting a certain way, because now I'm seeing it, and so that's what a lot of things I've been telling some of my athletes. It's like, just wait, you'll get it. If you ever become a coach, whenever you go older, you understand. And so I'm very thankful for all the experiences I've gotten from her, because it all makes sense in the long run.
Like, I wish you all said all nice things about me, but when I think back now that I coach right, I'm like, oh God, I should have done that better. I bet Brian was really annoyed when I did that. I bet David was really wanting to, make me run when I did that. And, and I'm like, I should have been better. So I get it. So thank you for the nice things. But now I'm like, I really didn't do it that good. I need to do it better.
Y'all were less worse than everybody else.
Perfect. I'll take it.
And so let's go to David. David, I know it's been a few years since you've coached, but for those, David is the director of college programs for varsity and UCA, and obviously, like, being able to coach your team, your people that you're in charge of, the college staff, the red shirts. David, you're still a coach in my opinion. Kind of what is one life experience or skill that whether it be from your UK days or from coaching that still sticks to you today?
Well, I think all the good answers were taken, so I'm going to go ahead and go with that one. No, you know what? It's funny. I'll tell a quick story because I know we're wrapping this up. But the one thing is really when you can learn to listen to people to understand and not to respond. And I don't know where I heard the quote from, but it was powerful to me. And it really hit me because at Alabama, I remember first couple of years that I was there, at the very end of the banquet, I would have some of our freshmen or our younger girls come up to me and they were like, I was so scared that you didn't like me. And I'm like, well, why would you think that? And they're like, well, because, at practice, I'd come up to talk to you and you would just turn around and walk away. And I'm like, huh? And you're like, and so I never realized that I was just so focused on stuff that whatever it was, practice, whatever, but it was like, I did that on occasion. So, I say that jokingly, but I think when we can all sit, like really listen to understand someone and not to respond, because all of us are, we have been blessed and we're so fortunate in what we've been able to even accomplish and just the things that we've been able to do. And I think it's really easy sometimes for us to kind of almost have the answer before they even finish. Hey, so you should be doing this in practice by this date. All these things, instead of just kind of listening and just understanding what they're going through, because I think all these people on these screens here, more importantly, that really are coaching and doing it for the right reasons, is that there is so much more for these young people than coaching. There's so much more than championships, and it really goes back to making people be better people. And when you can walk away from that and people say that about you, I think that is really where you've made a mark. And I gotta brown nose to Brian a little bit too, because, Brian was one of the hardest working people that I've ever met, even with cheerleading. I mean, that man could punch himself so hard because he would not land his tumbling and he would have bruises on his legs. And I'm not joking. It was like he was so mad because he felt like he was letting everyone else down, himself, but even more importantly, everyone else down. And, one of the things that I always say about Brian is that he made me want to run through a wall for him, not because of yelling or say. It was just that you just didn't want to let Brian down. You just didn't want to let him down. And I think that, that is more important to me. And I know it's to all of you guys as well, is that, yeah, we all want to win. Don't get me wrong. We're competitive in nature. But at the end of the day, when people want to run through a wall for you, and you've made them a better person, that's where it counts. That's what it's all about. So,
thank you. It made me cry. Wow.
I'm gonna say, I'm about to cry. Like, please, no tears. This is exactly the episode I wanted. I just knew that, the people down there, the bottom row people, as you're watching the screen, had this huge influence on the two people, that have taken over these huge programs. And I just want to thank you all for your time tonight. And we had some great views, some great, obviously, people watching. And thank you very much. I can't thank you enough. I know everybody's busy, and I know that there's things to do on a Wednesday night. So I just want to thank you all for taking an hour out of your day to chat with me and to chat with everybody and just share your stories. I appreciate it. And I'm going to put you all backstage and wrap things up, and we'll chat a little bit afterwards. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks. And that is our SEC Coaches Corner. I cannot thank them all again enough for their time tonight to talk about. I know there'd be some great stories. I know there'd be some great insight. I mean, seriously, 5 of the best coaches in the country that we had on here tonight. I knew it was exactly what I wanted, which was just great stories and just some heartfelt shout outs and everything. So thank you, everybody, again, for tuning in tonight. I do want to, again, say that we have an awesome sponsorship for about 24 hours only. If you go to cheerchalk.us and you can put in the discount code FULLOUT10, you'll get an additional 25% off. All right, an extra 25% off their big sale they already have going on. Like I said, you could be saving a lot of money, possibly hundreds if you're wanting to get some of their big packs. So again, you could be saving a lot of money if in the next 24 hours. So again, go to cheerchalk.us and put in the FULLOUT10 discount code to get an additional 25% off, but it only goes until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow. So again, act now and get some of that Cheer Chalk. Next week, we are back to our Full Out Chats and Coach's Corner. And I am very excited for this one. I'm very excited every week for everybody I've been able to talk to. But we're going into the world of abilities cheer. And I am so excited about it. I have an aunt who has competed in the Special Olympics many years. Her favorite event is bowling, and the Special Olympics has meant a lot to my family. And I know it means a lot to her in regards to just what it does for her self-esteem. And so next week, we're going again to the abilities cheer world. And next Tuesday, we're going to be talking to Lee Trudell, who is the director of Paracheer Spirit. He's going to be talking to me one-on-one on Instagram Live next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Again, next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, I'll be having a one-on-one with Lee Trudell, the director of Paracheer Spirit. And next Wednesday for a Coach's Corner, we are going to have an awesome Abilities Cheer episode where we will have Lee Trudell, Angela Pierce, Darian Packard, Jen Whaley, Patty Cones, and Louis Harris to talk about the Abilities Cheer program, the U.S. Abilities Cheer team, and just the growth of the Abilities Cheer sport, what it has meant to so many kids out there, to so many athletes out there, kids, adults, everybody who has participated in the Abilities Cheer world. It's been an awesome program. So I am very excited to talk to the people involved with that program next week. Again, next Tuesday, one-on-one with Lee Trudell on Instagram Live, and then next Wednesday here on YouTube. Coach's Corner, Abilities Cheer episode. Very excited for that. So again, thank you all very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay healthy, stay safe.